Welcome back, adventurers. So I just finished a 3-year campaign just a few months ago, and here are 13 things that I learned that I think you should learn too. First of all, the first thing I really want to talk about is to do a session 0. Just do a session 0. I know that some people will not like to do a session 0 because you've been friends for a long time or whatever, but I think it's really important to just kind of set at least some ground rules. Everybody gets on the same page as far as house rules, what things you do want to include and don't want to include, how much role-playing versus combat. You'd be surprised how many campaigns fall apart because 1 or 2 people are not having fun because none of this stuff was talked about at the very beginning. The second thing that I like to do, and something that I feel has been a huge benefit to not only the storytelling at my table, but just cohesion between players, is to do a one-on-one with characters or groups. So for example, if there's a couple of characters that know each other, maybe they traveled together before the beginning of the campaign, what I like to do is sit both of those players down without the rest of the players at the table and just do a one-on-one, set the tone, set the mood for them, tell them a little bit about what they might know of the city that they're arriving in or the setting that they're in, just to get them talking a little bit, and maybe do like a quick mini encounter just so that they get a feel for their character's abilities and all of that stuff. But doing those one-on-ones, even if it's just one person to one person, just a quick duet between a dungeon master and a player, I think it really, really helps with the immersion at my table. Maybe it'll do the same for yours. Now, number 3, there's more story in the player characters than in any big, bad, evil guy that you can create. Lean on it. And I really mean that. You're gonna find much more immersive storytelling in the things that your players asked to do in their backstories, those little threads, the artifact that they're carrying around that they don't know, the long-lost sibling, the dead parent, all of those things are gonna be much more visceral for them to experience through their characters than any bad guy you throw at them with a bunch of hit points. So really, really something that I suggest is to really lean on their stories, lean on what they gave you. And if they didn't give you anything, then that means they don't care and they're wanting to just go along for the ride, and that's okay too. And number 4, side quests and random encounters are absolute lifesavers. If you have a session today, for example, and you completely forgot or you just didn't have the time to prep, throw a side quest at them. Some random person needs their help to slay a weird monster in the next village. A random encounter, a bunch of wolves is an easy one, goblins. You can throw something really fun at them. Something that especially if they're like high level and they're challenging you as a DM and they're constantly destroying any encounters that you throw their way, throw them something fun. Throw them a dragon, throw them like a giant, like they're gonna have fun. Nobody's gonna go show up at your table and go, oh no, we have to fight a dragon. They're gonna love it. And they may still slay the thing in a couple rounds, but at least you bought yourself some time to think through the next steps. And honestly, those side quests and random encounters have come in handy so many times. Do it, you'll thank yourself. Now, number 5, NPCs will become like loved ones, and it's very true. There are NPCs that my players were completely destroyed when they ended up dying because of one thing or another. Literal tears. And that is something that you can use as a storytelling device, something that you can use to lighten the mood or to increase stakes or to bring the mood down if you really want to make an emotional sort of like gut punch for the party. Use the NPCs, especially the ones that they love. They are a great tool and a great asset for giving quests and for pulling on their heartstrings. And number 6, some stories will be built through the campaign, not in the backstory. So kind of contrary to what I said earlier, there are some stories that you're going to build as the campaign is moving because your players are going to be acting through all of the things that you're throwing at them, and they're going to be bringing up plot hooks that you didn't think about that you're probably going to think that's a way better thing than what I had planned, because they can do a lot of the work for you. So don't be afraid to lean on the stories that are being told through the campaign, and you don't necessarily always have to tie it to a backstory, and you don't always necessarily have to make a player shine at every single moment. Sometimes it's okay to let the story that they're telling be the story that you're focusing on that day. Now, something I like to... I'm sorry, this just in. We have breaking news. Breaking news. Dungeon masters everywhere are being exposed for describing taverns like IKEA furniture instructions. Players are calling for immersion, drama, music for God's sake, and quote, like at least a little bit of ambience for once. Experts say the answer is clear. Describe thousands of professionally written descriptions for taverns, monsters, NPCs, items, and more. There's maps and music and ambience and sound effects too. DMs using Describe report instant immersion, cinematic moments, and players who genuinely believe they prepared all of this ahead of time instead of crying right before the session. Lore, back to you. Oh, thanks. Me? As I was saying, And number 7, the tone of a level is as important as what's happening in it. So for example, if you're in the Hells, keep that tone. You know, it's very easy to forget what the setting is like and sometimes fall into the back and forth with your characters, like, and not even with your characters, but with your players at the table, just fall into being friends and to make jokes. But if you're in the Hells, make them feel like they're in the Hells. If they're in the Feywild, make them feel like they're in the Feywild. So just be mindful of the tone and find a few things, just write down at the top of every session, a couple of beats, a couple of things that you can introduce into that session, such as a new enemy that they've never seen before. If they're in the Feywild, they might feel a little safer than they're in the Hells, but introduce them to a Jabberwocky or into some crazy fairy dragon thing. It's okay to homebrew something too. Just remember that the tone is the tone, and you want to continue to build on that and not let them forget where they are, especially if they're supposed to be somewhere dangerous or somewhere fun and whimsical. Go into each session with that in mind and remember that, like, this is a new opportunity, a new session, a new day for me to re-inject some of that whimsy or re-inject some of that horror, and do that. Because it really does make the games much more fun. At number 8, it's okay to forget your own lore. Honestly, you can put the recaps and the lore on your players. Make them tell you what happened in the previous session. Make them tell you what's in their notes. If they ask a question, ask them to go through their notes. And if they didn't, well, then tough luck. The player didn't, or the character didn't remember. So you don't always have to be this incredible lore master, lore keeper, and it's okay. It took me years to learn that. Now, at number 9, not every story needs to be wrapped by the end. If you get to the end of the campaign, the end of the story, and you feel like you want to do something new, you want to tell a story with some new characters, or there's just nothing, like they're level 20 and your story's wrapped up, that doesn't mean every single thread needs to be wrapped up. If anything, what that does is it creates a great opportunity to revisit these characters later on down the road. Maybe in a few months, campaign 2 or whatever campaign you're on becomes boring, and you can come back and revisit the old characters and throw a whole new adventure at them to wrap up one of those threads. Not everything has to be wrapped up with a bow. It'll save you some time. Now, at number 10, the best combats are not necessarily the ones with the biggest bosses. Let me say that again. The best combats are not the ones with the biggest bosses. A combat can be much more fun if you're not just knocking out HP. If you're not just trying to bring that green bar down to red. It's way more fun if you introduce encounters like the players have to protect or escort this artifact or this person as they're actively trying to be assassinated, maybe during a festival or maybe during a crazy moment, a religious moment in the city, and maybe there's a coup or something like that, and you've been tasked to protect this one person, this important person that may be important to the story, and you have to protect them. And now it's not about trying to take out some giant monster, it's about trying to be strategic, and now you're really asking them to lean on their abilities and their creativity. Way more fun. It can also be hold the line. We need you to buy us as much time as possible, stay here and guard the gate, protect us at all costs, sort of thing. And maybe eventually they do have to run, but every round gives them X benefit, you know? It increases the DC for something later or decreases it later. And it can also be a kind of capture the flag. Go in, capture this thing, and come back. Those are all encounters. So you don't necessarily have to make these giant monsters or create these big bad evil guys in order to create something epic, because you can do that through the storytelling, through the way that the encounter is built, and through the setting that it's put in. Now, number 11, not all moments that you plan are going to land the way that you wanted them to, and that's completely okay. Sometimes you're going to spend hours creating this evil villain that you're going to love, and then the moment that they introduce, or the moment that you introduce them, they start making fun of the name, or they just weren't as cool, or they got killed in 2 turns. That's okay. Let it go. Let them win. The players are playing a game. They beat you at that one. That's okay. Move on to the next one. Now, number 12, I highly recommend that you learn to build emotional impact in your storytelling. Turn it into a skill and not something that, like, wow, that moment was really cool. I don't know how I did that. Don't let it be an accident. Learn and reflect about reflect on what you did well in that session, what you think you did really well, and learn to sort of continue to build on that. So one of the best things you can do as a dungeon master, I think, is to be able to become a better storyteller and learn how to pace the things that you're saying, and learn how to choose, like, cherry pick those moments where you amp up your energy, and then when you slow down to reveal something. That's a skill. And it's something that you can build. Anybody can do it, and you can start doing it literally every session, and by the end of a year, you'd be surprised at how good you get. And then lastly, one of the most important ones, if not the most important one, number 13, you, the dungeon master. Yes, you, the game master, if you're playing something other than 5e, you're allowed to have fun. And I want to be very, very clear about that, because sometimes as dungeon masters, a lot of the times as dungeon masters, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be these incredible storytellers, to be a certain type of DM, especially with so many internet DMs just kind of blowing up, and we start to compare ourselves, and that's the way that it goes with the world that we live in right now. It is okay to have fun, and sometimes it's okay to do something wild and silly and that doesn't make sense, or to just take a break from that campaign and do a one-shot. You're playing a game too. You get to have fun, and it's okay. I am giving you the freedom to have fun right now. So anyways, those are my 13 things that I learned after running a campaign that went on for 3 years. More than 3 years, really. And I wanted to share those with you. Let me know in the comments down below if you learned something running your campaigns. What was it? Put it down below. I want to read it. I'm sure there's a million things that I am forgetting. As always, thank you so much for watching. And remember, if it's gray, it might be edible.